fear, hopelessness, and doubt. That is the message of the first chapter of Attack on Titan. Within the first page, it appears that humanity is on its last leg. However, that hope is still pronounced in one boy, Eren Yeager. He's different from every other person because Eren has hope. He believes it's possible to stop the Titans, and he wants to try no matter what. The hopelessness, however, is present in the civilians, the troopers, and everywhere. There is no hope for survival, and outside these walls, there is nothing but hell on earth. Death wherever you walk, and death has reached far beyond what humanity can ever do. We're thrusted into a world that is so far from reality. And the scene that displayed that perfectly was between this character Braun's mother, this woman, and someone from the Survey Corps. She copes with her son dying for nothing because that's all she can do in this hopeless situation. Her asking this is the only thing that brings her hope, but the only thing he can say is of course, but no. Once again, they've accomplished nothing. The survey has achieved nothing. Everyone's money is basically just being used to feed these creatures, and there is nothing but despair everywhere you go. In the townspeople, in the Survey Corps, in Eren's family, no one has faith in their government. The soldiers sent out to die in a hopeless war. The pinnacle of that fear, hopelessness, and doubt coming in on the final page, as a single Titan is enough to bring down the wall. A first chapter is perhaps the most important part of your series. It has several jobs: hook the audience, display the world, display the characters, showcase their flaws and beliefs, make their goals known, introduce a power system, and how your main character is set apart from the rest of the world. Now, not every series is just like this. You can have an amazing first chapter without even half of these, but the hard part is to connect everything and give it to your audience in a way that is coherent, engaging, and good, and beautiful, and all around fun to read. Today, I've read several first chapters, some that are amazing, some that are awful, and a lot not used in this video. Hi, my name's Talon Talks. Enjoy the video. Chainsaw Man. Fujimoto is definitely one of the more popular names to come out of shonen in the past few years, and for good reason. Tatsuki Fujimoto is a genius at manga creation, though he does seem absolutely insane at times. Have you seen Blood's Twitter? I remember at the start of my manga collection, I went for My Hero Academia. Poor choice, I know, considering how much I diss the series now. Naruto, One Punch Man, and a few others. But amongst those was Chainsaw Man. And the reason as to why I enjoyed it is because of its first chapter. I believe I started off with 3 volumes, but its first chapter was all I needed for a hook. Chainsaw Man does many things right. It sets up the world, it displays the characters, and gives us everything we need to know. In the first few pages, in fact, we understand who Denji is. His father's dead, and he must pay off all of his father's debts to the Yakuza. It shows us that he just lives to die, and that one day possibly pass down the debt to his children, if he can get his hands on a woman. Couldn't be me. But in the same breath, Fujimoto also gave us another inkling of the world. There are creatures known as devils, and Denji kills these devils for money to pay off his father's debt. Okay, perfect. This debuts who Denji is as a character. He has nothing. No father, no mother, no friends, no money, no bitches, just his pet devil. And he will most likely never have anything for as long as he would live. It also gives us his goals. He wants all these things, but what he's describing is a basic life with normal goals. But that is his goal. 2 of the most important aspects of a character. As for the world, it's shown to us as a corrupt, evil, dark one, with the Yakuza using their power and threats to get a child to pay off his father's debt. While you don't have to follow every rule of storytelling, things like a story world, main characters, and goals and beliefs all should be required. You cannot interest your audience without displaying these things. I cannot stand when authors do this, when they forget one of the many requirements of the first chapter. My Hero Academia, JJK, and Fire Force had fantastic opening chapters for this very reason. If you'd prefer the older generation, Dragon Ball, Hunter x Hunter, and Berserk all had near perfect openings because they all used the most important requirements. They all had the hook, the story world, the characters, and the beliefs of those characters. Or some have goals, one has flaws, but either way, what you're seeing on screen is what I think you can't not use. And when he is asked to kill another devil, he got double-crossed and killed. And he is thrown in a dumpster, just another soul forgotten. However, he and Pochita became one because of a contract, mirroring how they met. Denji gave Pochita life, so Pochita did the same for him. Neither one wants to die. They both want to see what life gives them, because both of them have had nothing up to this point. So Denji is reborn as the Chainsaw Man, and he starts ripping and tearing through the opposition, eventually making his way to the zombie devil and proclaiming victory over it and its little army. Denji knows his goals are in view. They're right there, and he can almost obtain them. He's finally free now, and now he must do what Pochita told him to do, to show him Denji's dream. Finally, day breaks, and opening the doors are the Devil Hunters, who spot Denji, and the one who catches him is a woman. This woman is Makima, allowing him to see his dream upon the horizon. It doesn't do everything a first chapter should do by the book, but it works anyway. What I mean is that the Yakuza doesn't get brought up again. His father? No. What about his mother? Nah. But it works when you incorporate his dream and Makima. He's given a second chance, this time a life that he basically has chosen for himself instead of one cast upon him. You can't help but look at what he had and where he ended up. None of this was by a dumb choice. He didn't have a choice. It takes the best part of storytelling, the hell to heaven route, as I call it, where you put your character through hell and eventually sees heaven. Of course, that's not the exact route Chainsaw Man took, especially for everything past the first chapter, but for the first chapter, it's amazing. It's perfect. It's everything that you could really ask for, especially when it breaks the rules as it needs. 9 out of 10. Soul Eater had one of the worst opening chapters. There's no joke here. Why? Because I didn't know which one to review. Because Soul Eater, get this, doesn't have 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 chapter 1s. And even the 4th one is a part 1. This is some Attack on Titan crap. This is something I despise now with Soul Eater, because over time it made reviewing Soul Eater infuriating. What I mean is that the entire series followed this exact process. We get to follow Soul and Maka, then we got to follow Black Star and Tsubaki, then we got to follow Death the Kid, Liz, and Patty. I hated this so much that I skipped these 3 chapter arcs. But oh no, I missed one piece of lore that is very major to the rest of the series, and now the entire video doesn't make sense. I hope you understand why I never finished this series. Chapter 1.1. This chapter is about Soul Evans and Maka Allburn, and they encounter Blair and try to eat her soul because she's a witch, but she's a cat? Yeah, honestly, it does introduce the characters well. Shinigami and Maka's father were introduced as well, them being Death and Death's weapon, respectively. What makes this one awful is that I can't tell you anything aside from motivation. That's it. I hate this. I despise the fact that both are essentially nothing. I can't even do it with this series. However, what got me the most, that I cannot get past, that you're gonna have to bear with me as I explain it. They collected 99 human souls and they need 1 witch soul, but they accidentally claim a cat soul and that it gets reset. My question is, why don't they just go out to find a witch soul and consume that one? I'm sorry, I'm currently about to have a stroke. Chapter 1.2. Black Star and Tsubaki appear and fight this witch's bodyguard. While it's a nice segment, and it does tell us a lot about these characters, my problem is that it also distracts from our other main characters, from the chapter before this one and the chapter after this one. And what's unfortunate is that all of those distract from this one, because this one is surprisingly better, but it still sucked for the most part due to how the other 2 are associated with it. Honestly, I love Black Star. I personally find him to be the most fun part of all 3 chapters. These characters are really good. Black Star wants to ascend the gods and show everyone that he is that powerful. He's flawed in the sense that he's so upfront with attacking his enemies because of what his childhood was like, because he wants the attention on them at all times, which is revealed in a different arc, and here it was set up perfectly. I especially love the dialogue Black Star has in regard to Angela and Mifune. He is a character I genuinely like. For context, the the entire moral implication is that to turn your weapon into a death weapon is that you need 99 human souls and 1 witch soul. Mifune is a character they can kill and get the 99 human souls they need, and they could kill Angela and get the witch soul they need. It's a challenge of morality. Now, Tsubaki doesn't really have a character because the entire point of a weapon is that they're supposed to listen to the Meister. In this case, the Meister is Blackstar. She might not want to do it, but if Blackstar does, she has no say in that sense. And Blackstar takes the route of not murdering both. Thank God. But it establishes who he is, and while I question many parts, I still think that this was the best arc. Death the Kid and 2 women, Liz and Patty. I hate everything about this. I cannot do this shit anymore. They go out, fight some random guy, and they're done. My problem with this system is that it distracts from each character. I hate what Atsushi is doing here with a decent series idea. What I mean is, when you have a big cast, it can distract the audience and make it hard to absorb. Not that I'm weak-minded like you simpletons, but I can't help but dislike this series for this exact problem, because this continued throughout the full series. Now, back on track for the 4 first chapters. Oh, that's right, there are 4. Chapter 4.1. We're not even gonna do it. While I can understand wanting to give everyone the spotlight, simplify it for the audience. You can make sacrifices. I'm not even saying don't use all the characters presented. I'm saying either introduce them all at once, or make some minor side characters, or major side characters at that. It all feels unconnected, because for the most part it is, even for way later in the series, but that's on purpose. But just because it's on purpose doesn't excuse the use of this recipe to form this story, which is also something that is present throughout the rest of the series. It's not the best way of writing, in my opinion. Hell, I find it irritating at points, because once again, much like the first 3 chapters follow this exact recipe near fully. But the final part of this that really gets to me is that the 4th chapter is perfectly good. If there was a page here and there giving us an idea of how these characters act and giving us descriptions that display those acts and feats, would have made things much shorter, concise, and more coherent. Make it short and sweet. Doing this would have allowed for all parts to appear within 1 chapter, giving us everything the characters present, and send us on our way to the rest of the series in a perfect way. If you want a long chapter, make it long. If you want a short chapter, make it short. But whatever you do, don't put it in 3 first chapters as well as a other chapter with a part 1 and a part 2. Honestly, the only solace we can take is that Soul Eater is over, hopefully it does not get a revival series, God forbid, and that Fire Force was genuinely fantastic. And look, if Blackstar had the floor and was the main character and was the only one who had a first chapter, I'd be all for it, and this series would get a higher rank. However, I still must follow the ruling overall. 4 out of 10. Fairy Tail. Fairy Tail begins in a near perfect way. In the first pages, we actually get a hint as to who the Fairy Tail Guild is. Mainly that they're idiots that cause a lot of trouble. But after that, we get to see our main characters, Natsu and Lucy, and Happy, if you can even consider him a person. I think he's half of one. Here, nearly everything is set up. Characters' beliefs, goals, flaws as in gimmicks or not, the story world, what sets your main character apart from the others, and even power systems. That is every single thing you need to make a first chapter seen and heard. And I think I have to give a point-by-point explanation to really show what I mean, because Mashima chose to be a madman with this one. Firstly, the story world. Characters can use magic items and in fact buy them from shops. Wizards are extremely popular, as well as wizard guilds. And you can join a guild, it's incredibly hard, but anywho's. And not only that, magic is everywhere. Again, in shops, in guilds, in people, in items, everywhere you can imagine. Hell, there are even vehicles down the line which, while it doesn't really count for this first chapter, that require a user's magic. However, the biggest part of all of this is that they've met a very famous wizard known as Salamander who uses fire magic. He is also in the Fairy Tail Guild, one of the most popular wizard guilds of all time. Keep that in the back of your mind. It also introduces dark guilds. You see, the man tricked Lucy about getting into Fairy Tail, and he's actually part of a dark guild. A dark guild is basically a guild that operates outside the confines of the law. Dark guilds are also a big part of this world. Remember the Balam Alliance? That is 3 separate arcs of material right there. Or even Raventail, that's another arc in of itself. But my favorite plot point is magic. Magic can be twisted into anything you'd like it to be. Water-based, fire-based, control-based, fucking demon-based. All of these things are present within Fairy Tail. Want to know what other magic is present in Fairy Tail? Celestial summoning magic. You can take a key, turn it, and out comes a guy from another dimension. See what I mean? With magic, literally anything is on the table. Of course, that's not unheard of, even with regular superpowers. But with what else we have around this time, One Piece, Naruto, Bleach, Dragon Ball, Hunter x Hunter, magic, while still used, was also on a decline at this time. Because, you know, it's very, very basic. Every series kind of just dealt with magic. Here are some on screen from the 90s to the early 2000s. But because it was on a decline by this time, it gave way to Fairy Tail to be the premier magic manga series that quickly became #1 with how outlandish a lot of the magic is. But these two plot points aren't the only things that are brought to the table with Fairy Tail. As for the characters, we have two with personality. Natsu has one goal throughout the series. We're told it here. His goal is to find the fire dragon Igneel, his father. Lucy's goal, as of now, is to join a wizard guild. Natsu also has beliefs, and he displays those. He stands for friendship and will not go down until those who insult his friends go down. Natsu shows here what he is to the audience, someone with no flaw. Now, yes, idiocy is a flaw, but what I mean by flaw is no anger, no misunderstanding, nothing from what it seems. Natsu tells what he is with one line towards the end of the first chapter, speaking about how no one should disrespect Fairy Tail or lie on their name. Notice that Lucy doesn't have much as far as that, but her goal and her development comes later, so don't worry about that. What this first chapter does is introduce us to Natsu and what he does to those around him, because Natsu is set up from the very beginning to not be a character with flaws. He is not to be a character who changes. He is to be a character who changes those around him, even if just by a little. With all of this, Natsu's final pages in the first chapter are taking the guy out with the magic he proclaimed was his, fire magic, and he took off with Lucy, making history for the entire manga scene, and giving us one of the greatest first chapters in manga, at least according to my beliefs. 10 out of 10. My name's Talon Talks. Thank you for watching, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.